Come on with the cars. Back in 2017, I began a full restoration of my 96 Bayliner by tearing it apart all the way down to the hull. From there, I began the rebuilding process, which included learning to fiberglass, rebuilding an engine and outdrive, learning to fare and paint, and even upholstery. Now, I've bought a 28-foot cabin cruiser, and I'm starting all over. Welcome, my name's Jared. Now get ready, because it's going to be a ship show. Alright guys, welcome back to the boat. I haven't been on the boat in a while, so let me show you what I'm doing down here. So as mentioned at the end of the last video, I had two options here. Just kind of depended on which one I felt like tackling first, and this one got the short straw, which is removing the generator. I have no idea if this thing works. While I have the engine out, now is kind of the time. It's never going to be easier, so I'm going to do it. And to be 100% honest with you, I'm not positive this thing's going to go back in. I haven't decided yet. I plan on rebuilding it either way, but I may end up trying to sell it. It's a lot of maintenance for something that probably isn't going to get used a whole lot. I'm thinking about converting over to just all batteries with a inverter, so we'll see. Either way, this has to come out. So let me give you a recap of what I've done so far, because it is not straightforward and I haven't found any videos online showing you how to do this. So this is a Kohler 5E gasoline generator. They make a 5, a 7.5, and a couple variations of the same thing. 5 meaning 5 kilowatt. This one has a sound enclosure. It's mostly removed at this point, so that's why you can kind of see everything. And the way that this is mounted is actually there's just 4 stainless screws in each corner of this sort of plastic base plate. It seemed like that wouldn't be enough, but that's all that was holding it in. So once I figured that out, it was a matter of getting those screws. So there was one here, one behind this cover plate. The one back there was basically just a give it the old reach around, and back there was another cover plate with a screw inside of there. Now the other pain in the butt is they were Phillips screws. You see, here's one. This is what was holding it in. So you kind of have to do one of those deals where you put the Phillips bit in the socket so you can get in at a 90-degree angle. So got those screws out. It wasn't too bad. And then it came to basically just what all needs disconnected and how do you do it. So underneath this front cover here is the fuel line. Got that removed. It's a 1/4-inch fuel line. There's also a raw water inlet here that went to the sea strainer. I tried to remove it, but I'm going to replace the hose anyway, so it's just easier to cut. Up here is the flexible exhaust that ran into the muffler. I got that removed from the muffler. I'm going to leave it on the motor for now. Down in the bottom there, if you can see right there, there's 2 pretty large gauge ground wires coming out, and they just ran down 2 batteries here. So I actually left them connected because they run all the way underneath and over to this stud right here. So I'm just going to leave them on and pull them out with the generator. Now the positive lead, that ran back along the transom and up with this bundle into the remote, the battery selector switch. So instead of removing that from the selector switch, I actually removed that from the starter solenoid stud right there and was able to kind of fish it out underneath. So I got that disconnected. What else was there? I believe that is it as far as external. No, I'm sorry. We're now we're caught up to what I still need to do, which is inside this electrical panel cover here, which I removed the top off of. There was a wire here, this black wire, this black lead, which I believe is the live lead, was going to the bottom of this AC circuit breaker. So I removed that from down there, and now I just need to remove the white and green from the stud that's located, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it, but down in there. So I have to get those off, feed these out, get them back out of the way, and then I think at this point this thing is basically free to come out, which my plan is, obviously I can't go straight up, kind of got a boat in the way, so I'm going to try and slide it towards me, get it out over this opening, and then I got my chain hoist up here still, so I'm going to have to back the boat up till that's roughly over this opening, get the chain hoist on the generator, and pop it out of here. Alright, so that is the plan. As It's really nothing to show you with me doing that. I just got to unscrew this stud and then we'll work it out of here. So while I'm getting that done, why don't we get caught up on where we left off with the heat exchanger after last week's debacle. Alright, so as you can tell here, the heat exchanger situation didn't go in my favor. So ended up buying a new one. Scoured the internet and was not a huge fan of the prices of the OEM MerCruiser one. There's several aftermarket brands and a few of them have really good reputations. This company I went with is one, which is Lenco. I believe they're on Long Island somewhere in New York, which is also kind of nice. So it's reasonably close, so the shipping was not horrendous.
Shit my pants.
One thing I did find is this old one is a 3.5 inch diameter, and this is 4 inch. The 3.5 is no longer manufactured by MerCruiser, and it's superseded by a 4 inch. So I'm assuming that's a good thing in terms of probably more heat exchanger capacity, but I assume that that also means that it'll fit on the motor no problem. So we'll find out together. I do apologize for my voice. I've been trying to fight off this stupid cold or whatever I have for like 2 weeks now, and it's just not going away, so apologize for that. At this point, I need to get this overflow fitting installed on the new one and some tape off of here. It came primered, put a quick couple of coats of the black gloss paint on. So let's get the tape off, this fitting installed, and then let's go throw it on the motor. So I just realized in the last video I basically already showed installing the heat exchanger, so it seemed like kind of a waste of time to show that again. So I just stopped the last video and got this thing installed. One thing I did find with this larger diameter exchanger is it's a little bit tough to get into place compared to the old one. And because this sticks out a little bit further because the larger diameter, I couldn't get a second hose clamp here where the other one was on the old style, because it was actually hitting the belt and the pulley since it sticks out further. So what I did is I actually grabbed one of these giant like HVAC zip ties and ended up putting it over here, which I kind of like better anyway because it's pushing down more over this tube. Ideally I'd do the same thing over here, but there's really no good spot on the underside of this to wrap it around. So anyway, got this thing on, I think. As far as I can tell it is, got all the hoses reconnected. And now it's time to fill this thing up with antifreeze again. And after we do that, we can give it a pressure test and cross our fingers, no leaks. So I got 3 gallons of Dexcool concentrate and 3 gallons of distilled water. It's gonna take somewhere around, I think it's like 5 gallons, maybe something like that. So I'm just gonna alternate through the first 4, and then after that I'll probably mix it in a bucket and then pour it in. But I'm gonna go slow at first because there's a decent chance I forgot to put a plug in somewhere. Oops. Turns out you need to tighten those bolts. Alright, well, hey, it's not a party till you spill some liquid. That sounded gross, never mind. Alright, so we got this thing filled up. It's gonna have a lot of air in the system until we can really run it and get the air out and kind of check it. But now that it's mostly full of antifreeze, I do want to pressure test the system. I gave it a quick kind of once over around the engine, didn't see anything major. But now the true test is going to be the pressure test. So I rented the pressure test kit from the auto parts store again, and I have the cap on that is meant for this thread. So I guess for those of you playing along at home, if you rent this kit for $4.96, it is cap number 26. So make sure it's got the gasket in there. I'm going to thread it onto the reservoir. Take our pump here, snap on this quick disconnect, and then we're going to pump this up to 15 psi, since that is the rated pressure of the system. And we're just going to keep some pressure on it and see if it leaks. So here we go. And we got a leak. Oh goody. Well, let's let the pressure off so we can. Pressure's off the system. Now the question is, where is it coming from? It looked like somewhere back there, but I don't know for certain. Oh joy. Alright. Oh, there's just no good way to see back there. I'm going to pressurize it again slowly. See if I can spot that leak without it dripping too fast. It actually seems to be the hose that goes to the reservoir. Well, that stinks, because that means the heat exchanger's got to come back off. Let me go figure out how I'm going to recover this antifreeze. Get a clean bucket or something. Alright, so I need to get coolant out of this at least down to below the heat exchanger, because I have to take it back off, because I didn't check all the hoses because I'm dumb. I did clean this bucket out so I can reuse this. Alright, so now I'm going to see if I can get this hose off, reconnect the shorter piece, and then the coolant will be below the heat exchanger level. That wasn't too bad. Alright, I'll bring it back when the heat exchanger's off. I don't need to show you that again. Okay, so from what I could tell, it was coming from here, this hose here, which now that I have it off, I don't know what I was seeing. It looked like the hose clamp was loose, but it's not. So I'm going to see if I can remove this hose easily and see if there's like a split in it or something. Okay. Huh. So I didn't see anything immediately wrong with the hose. I went from there to there. I mean, it's obviously old. It has a date code of 05 on it, so it's original to the boat. I mean, it's a little bit swollen, but I don't see any obvious splits. But I already have some 5/8, I believe that's what that is, heater hose. So I'm just going to put this on anyway. It's a relatively straight piece, so I don't think you need it to be molded. So I'm at least going to do that, and maybe that's part of the problem. I don't know. All right, here we go again. I'm sure I forgot something again, but here goes. Oh boy. Told you. Oh my gosh, I've spilled so much coolant. Here we go again. There's 15. All right. I'm just going to kind of go around, double check, listen for hissing sounds, leaks, anything like that. And we'll come back. All right, see if it's holding pressure. Oh yeah. So, it is holding pressure, thank God. That is good news. So now that we got the heat exchanger finally figured out, even though that was a lot more expensive than I was hoping and a little bit tedious, probably lost about a half a gallon of coolant in the shenanigans that just went on. But anyway, that is good news for the motor. Now we can start putting on a couple of the last finishing touches. Got to get the wiring harness back on, fill up some fluids, the oil, power steering fluid. I think that's pretty much it for that. And then we might try and start this thing out of the boat if we get a stretch of warm weather, because I don't want to put water in this and then have to do the winterizing thing if it's going to be like a real small window. So now that we got that figured out, let's go see what's going on with the generator. All right, guys, so the generator's finally out of the boat, sitting over here on this table. I guess the next step with that is to start digging into it. The motor, finally got the heat exchanger on, thank goodness. For one, I'm just happy to have that off of the bench here and on the motor, so that feels good to get that done. The last couple things I want to do, I didn't mention this earlier, I'm actually going to remove the injectors and have them sent out for cleaning. The cool fuel module, I didn't see any signs of delamination of the paint inside, but even still, just as old as the motor is, I think it's probably going to be a good idea to have it done, and it's really not that expensive. So I'm going to get those injectors pulled here in the near future, and then we're kind of wrapping things up on the motor, at least to the point where I can hopefully get it started and try and figure out if there's any other issues. Knock on wood, it's going to be okay. But yeah, at this point, I think we're going to get tearing into the generator here soon. And I don't have any big plans for it, just kind of some basic maintenance items so that we can actually run it and see if it works as expected, etc., all that good stuff. So it's going to be kind of a mini what we did with the motor, maybe check compression, things like that. So as part of that maintenance, I did go ahead and order a kit for the Kohler 5E. Comes with a Service Champ oil filter, you know, the perennial name in oil filters. New impeller kit with the new O-ring, got the new pencil anode that goes in the heat exchanger, new fuel filter and fitting, and 2 new NGK spark plugs. So at least we have that stuff ready to go. So I think it's going to do it for this video. I don't want it to get too long. I think we're already at like coming up on 18 minutes or so. So I want to thank you guys again for watching this video. Hopefully you found this one useful. There is not much info on YouTube on these Kohler generators. There's one guy that has a series of rebuilding the actual motor, but in terms of sort of how they're integrated in the boats and removing them, I wasn't able to find much at all, and even the service manual doesn't say much. So hopefully those of you that have these generators found that useful, and maybe the next upcoming couple of videos you guys will also get some use out of as well. So until then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.